This is Darker Days Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Mike, and tonight I'm joined by Chris. How's it going, Chris?
I'm good. What episode are we on?
Oh, we're on episode number 59. You can see that from our show notes.
Oh, we are on 59. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently we've got now 100 episodes, have we? With all the Darklings?
I think we've surpassed that a little while back.
Yeah, I got asked that on a podcast, and I was like, really? Oh, well. Yeah, I'm good. Painting toy soldiers, writing things, though mainly doing stuff for jobs and research and things. So, yeah. Good.
Yeah, definitely pretty awesome. And, of course, we're joined by Chigg. How's it going, Chigg?
Pretty good, Mike. Thanks for asking.
All right. Outstanding. Yeah, so what's going on with everyone? Chigg, what have you been playing lately?
Well, our group decided to get together and make a in-nomine characters. Then we went to GenCon, all of us, and we've decided that we're going to play games that we've purchased at GenCon since we spent money on them, instead of games that we've all had for years. So I think tonight, when we get together, we're going to play a game called Golem Arcana.
Golem Arcana? Golem Arcana,
which, surprising everybody, not least of all the creators of Golem Arcana, was a massive success at Gen Con.
Well, it wasn't a massive success on Kickstarter, as I recall, so that's pretty sweet to see it, up and running. Yeah, so for people that don't know, Golem Arcana is a tabletop miniatures game, which actually interfaces with tablets. So you have this little wand or pen that you use, and you can click on your tabletop miniatures on the table, and that sends signals back to your Android tablet, I think iOS as well, and lets you complete your actions and choose your different attacks and that sort of thing. So it's very nice for simplifying all the tables you find in a war game, and allowing for faster play.
Yeah, the computer, the software, does all of the dice rolling or card flipping or whatever your standard minis game requires. So all you have to do is say, I want to attack that guy with this guy, and it does all the heavy lifting for you. And it has some really neat minis to go along with it. They all come pre-painted, and they're just gorgeous. So all my friends got a copy of that, so I didn't have to. It was very nice of them. So yeah, we're going to be playing that tonight.
Sounds pretty rad. All right, awesome. Chris, what's been going on?
Let's see. I am back into painting some Rackham miniatures, because I've had them undercoated for the last God knows how long, so I thought I may as well attack them and get them done. And I am finishing up painting some other things, and I last weekend played some War Machine with my Khador army, so because I finally got some Winter Guardsmen, and yeah, it's pretty scary, a Khador army, because it's a classic Khador Death Star, so you just march forward and none of your men die because you're just rolling tough checks all the time. So that works out pretty cool. Otherwise, I'm just still trying to get stuff ready for playing Fading Suns and doing a few sessions of that. Anything else hobby-wise? That's about it. I think other than my Gatormen army will be turning up this week, so the rest of it.
Nice, you went with the Gatormen.
Yeah, so I've got Caliban turning up, and a Wrestler, and some Pharaoh Bone Grinders, who of course I can use with my Scorn, and I can use that with Trolls as well. So, it's the great thing about the game is that so much stuff is interchangeable. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, and obviously it's kind of related hobby-wise. So a few weeks back, the week before Gen Con, I was on GM Jam, so that's a podcast run by Lowell and his mate, and that was about Changeling the Lost and Games Mastering it, and how I've run it compared to how a lot of other people have run it. And there's some interesting common threads come up in that, and ideas to how you approach, getting your group together and how you run a chronicle. I think the main thing that popped up out of that was how the surprise element was when I said, well, you don't actually have to let everyone have access to playing every court. You could just have all the players belong to one court. And that seemed apparently, wow, why haven't we done that before? And it's like, yeah, because it saves you a hell of a lot of hassle.
Interesting. That has some bearing on something we'll be discussing later tonight. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's about it.
All right, sweet. And what have I been doing for gaming? Not a lot of it, because I can't think of any.
Oh, wait, I've done something else for gaming. And
what?
Mike, you've played it. We've played War Machine Tactics, because that's also
that's right.
pretty much, I would say, is a pretty solid translation of the game to digital. There's still a few bugs with some things like concealment and cloud effects and stuff, but pretty much runs as you expect it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the interface right now, but it's still in beta, so...
They upgraded the interface just 2 days ago.
Well, I guess I need to play it again. Nice. Yeah, War Machine, it's pretty rad. I'm just sad that we will not have Ashlyn Dealise as the one of the starting...
They did add an extra warcast for each faction as well with the update.
Still not Ashlyn, though. Ashlyn. That's all right. Sweet. Okay, so we obviously have quite a bit to talk about this episode, since we have coming up, or actually just passed, GenCon. So let's move on over to the news segment and see what's been going on. All right, Chigg. This was your 6th GenCon, is that correct?
I think it was my 5th. It might have been my 6th. It's a heavy convention, so the days and years run together. Not a complaint.
No, absolutely not. So, Chigg, you've been to a couple of these. It's not your first rodeo, but what'd you think of this one? Was it totes legit?
It was ridiculous. There were so many people there. Every year they break the previous year's broken record of attendees and events, and it's just incredible. If you or any of our listeners ever have the opportunity to go, take that opportunity. It is one of my favorite things to do.
Sounds pretty good, Chigg. And what were your favorite things to do there at GenCon?
I had just so much fun. I mean, I obviously attended both of the World of Darkness panels, and those were awesome. And I recorded those on my phone, but apparently my phone doesn't know how to make small video files, so I'm working on making those accessible to people who don't want to download a 5 gig file to watch the 2-hour chat or the 1-hour chat. The dealer hall is always ridiculous. It's where everybody goes and sells all their new toys and their latest and greatest. And some of the old standbys are there as well. But the best thing really is getting to meet people that you only know online or that you only see at GenCon and hang out and play games. So that was my experience.
All right. Sounds pretty good, Chigg. Sounds pretty good. All right. But one of the huge things going on at GenCon were some of the announcements that Onyx Path made. Definitely of, importance to us here on Darker Days Radio. So I think that the biggest announcement was Digital Web 3.0. I mean, that's the biggest thing in the entire show.
It was a pretty major announcement. There may have been a standing ovation when they mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was already announced in the Mage Kickstarter like 6 months ago, but come on, guys. That was definitely the biggest thing.
It was a delayed, but it was a well-deserved standing ovation.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we could talk about how there's a new World of Darkness game that was announced.
Well, we could also discuss how all of the New World of Darkness game line books are going to be official second edition versions of the World of Darkness games.
Indeed, and that's actually a great thing to bring up, especially because what's going to be going on is, so those Chronicle books that were already planned, such as the Idigam Chronicles and the Fallen World Chronicle for Mage the Awakening, they're now just going to be released as second editions. None of the content that was intended for them is actually going to change. It's still going to have all the rules you need to play, make your characters, tell your stories, and has the Chronicles inside them, but now it's actually going to be officially branded a second edition. So it's really just the nomenclature of it, but it's really appreciated, and I think it'll make things a lot easier for new players coming in to realize, like, hey, I shouldn't go for the Vampire the Requiem first edition. I should go for the new second edition, which is also the Strix Chronicle.
Did they say what they were going to do with the World? I can't quite remember what they're doing with the World of Darkness core book, because obviously, so within these books, because we know from Blood and Smoke, all the rules you need to play are in that book. So how does this now affect the World of Darkness core book and the God Machine Chronicles rules that go on top of the core book? Is there going to be a new core book?
Well, I'm going to answer that question by answering a different question first. So what's going to happen with the Strix Chronicle? What's going to happen is they're going to release Vampire the Requiem second edition, and that is going to be the official new second edition. It has pretty much all the same material, just some errata over the Strix Chronicle. And if you previously purchased the PDF version through DriveThruRPG, you're going to get an updated version. You're going to get that second edition, so you don't have anything to worry about. Now, with regard to the God Machine Chronicle and the World of Darkness second edition core book, they will be releasing a new core book. I don't think they've specifically answered or explained how that's going to affect the God Machine Chronicle book, if it's going to replace it, or if it's just going to be a separate small rule book. We do know that it's going to have some of the more advanced rules, such as vehicle rules in it, that haven't or will not make it into the second editions. So there still will be some use for it for additional systems and more specific things, as well as incorporating some of the interesting powers and Numina from Second Sight. So you get those options as well.
It's very, very cool that they've announced the official, it being all official second edition, because it also means not only are we getting second editions of Vampire, Mage, Werewolf, Promethean, Changeling, but we're also going to be getting a second edition brand new blue books, so for Mortal games. And we haven't seen a new blue book for World of Darkness for quite some time, and they're always they're generally on the whole really good books for just extra ideas for any game line.
Yeah, absolutely. Prior to the God Machine Chronicle, I think the newest blue book was, I just had the name on the tip of my tongue, Glimpses of the Unknown, released back in 2010, I believe. So it's been quite some time. So it'll be exciting to get some new general World of Darkness material, and it should be pretty rad. And of course, there's a new first edition coming out, isn't there? Really big news is going to be Beast the Primordial. Don't let the name initially kind of turn you off. I know when I first heard about it, I was like, that's, not the most exciting. But it seems like it has some very interesting ideas about people becoming monsters. It seems to be really the core tenet of it. Chigg, you were actually there at the GenCon presentation, so could you just kind of pass along some of the cool ideas that Mr. Black Hat Mac McFarland stated about this game?
Sure. Like you, I wasn't sure what exactly it was going to be at first. I thought maybe it was going to be more along the lines of a Grendel or a what's the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or Incredible Hulk kind of thing, which doesn't sound horrible, but not really World of Darkness-y, I guess. But during the presentation, it was clarified what the focus was going to be. It's going to be more along the lines of You play a character who has the inner soul of a primordial monster. So there are families, which are called families because things should be what they're called, which are one of the splats of monsters. So you could have a dragon type family was one of the ones mentioned specifically. The one mentioned specifically, actually, because somebody asked about it, where you don't change physically into a dragon. You just have the characteristics of a dragon. Like you might be able to breathe fire, but occasionally you have to go harass the townspeople and maybe kidnap a princess or something. Now, in indulging your primordial spirit inside, you have to maintain a very definitive balance between your primordial side and your human side, or else heroes will arise. And heroes are the villains of this game, actually. A hero would be someone like Lancelot or like Beowulf, who takes it in their head that they have to go and slay the beast. So actually they mentioned Gaston from Beauty and the Beast as a great archetypal hero that you might encounter in this game. Someone who thinks that they're doing right, but in fact maybe not so much.
Interesting. Very interesting.
They were not super forthcoming because, I mean, it's not a finished game line. They haven't finished writing it or anything yet. So, I mean, it's all in flux at this point. But it sounds super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the interesting and core points that I believe Mr. McFarlane brought up is that this is supposed to be a very crossover-friendly game line. So it's going to be very accessible for people that, say, like Vampire the Requiem to use beasts and other material in their games.
Interesting.
Indeed, one of the points that he mentioned was the abilities of the beast, like your whatever your powers are in a game. You can mimic the abilities of other supernaturals. So if you're playing in a beast game, and the example he gave was you have a friend who's a Nosferatu. You could develop powers based off of vampirism. You could develop powers based off of Nosferatu. Or you could develop powers based specifically off of your friend Bob the Nosferatu. It sounds like an interesting system. So
That is super rad.
With the very nature of these beasts, I mean, there's obviously already been some discussion about how close or not the concept is to, say, werewolf or changeling, for example, because again, changeling, you have the entire beast seeming. So it will be interesting how these primordial creatures contrast to, say, werewolves, which are again ancient, kind of bloodline of half wolf spirit, half man, or to changelings. So I think it'll be interesting when it comes out. I think also sometimes when you hear complaints that, oh well, it sounds like werewolf, it's like, well, you can easily play beasts where werewolves aren't in that version of the World of Darkness you're running. Not just because it's New World of Darkness, all these things don't have to exist simultaneously with each other. And you can see that when you look at some of the content for Hunter, because obviously Hunter gives you books, like Night Stalkers, whichever, whether it's for vampire, werewolf, mage, or the new one they brought out, and it gives you ways of representing creatures alike within the other splats, but they don't actually have to be full on, these are kindred. So I think sometimes people just need to step back a little and just accept that sometimes you need another way to represent monsters that aren't what we already know as a type of monster.
I concur.
Indeed.
All right. So I think that's enough with Beast. Let's actually just kind of go through the nice Onyx Path little brochure that was provided at GenCon. just kind of go through and comment on any cool new games that we haven't really, or cool new books that we haven't really discussed in the past. So starting off with Vampire, all the books on this page have actually been released, so let's just skip that. Real quick,
you're missing V20 Dark Ages.
That might be in a different section.
In a different section.
Sorry, it's on page 24. I apologize, I skipped ahead.
It's cool, Chigg.
To the upcoming releases section.
Yeah.
Well, some of these are actually upcoming. So, for example, for W20, Book of the Worm's going to be coming out. The Kickstarter actually just ended not too long ago. So that's pretty exciting to see. This is actually definitely a very necessary book, I feel, because if you go back and read, say, Book of the Worm first edition from way back when, it's pretty over the top. It definitely has feelings similar to maybe like the old, like early Image comics and some of the more zany Captain Planet type things from the early 90s. It's really nice to see Book of the Worm kind of evolve, mature, and develop into what it is now for W20. So that's definitely very necessary, I feel. Chigg, did you back that one?
Of course I backed that one. Don't be ridiculous. The original Book of the Worm, like you said, was very cartoony, super villainy, kind of over the top, ridiculous schemes. As the game line progressed, it got more and more not realistic because there's no one actually releasing evil spirits in their toxic waste just for shits and grins, but more down to earth in their scheming, I guess. And the revised or the Book of the Worm 20th edition looks to be the latest in that trend. I'm really looking forward to it.
Sweet. And just skipping ahead, looking at some of the nice stuff coming out for Mage 20th, we of course have things that have been released. How do you do that? The Practical Guide to Sphere Magic. So it's going to be a basic overview of how to do common magical effects, and really explains how Paradigm and the magic system of Mage the Ascension kind of all ties together, which is definitely something they should have put out 20 years ago.
At least.
Yes.
Yeah. What we have here, Gods, Monsters, and Other Familiar Strangers. It's a character compendium for Mage 20th. Also, meh. Yeah, I know. I mean, the NPC anthologies have always been kind of...
It's not. It's great, and I understand that you can go there for a source of inspiration or for a quick, NPC or a quick bad guy or whatever. But,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can put in there that's a bit more new, or at least revisiting an old concept. Because Bygones, I remember. Oh, which Mage book was that in? It was in one I had.
Could be in
was
the
it the Bygone
Bestiary.
Bestiary?
Yeah.
That is a great book if you want to play Pokemon in the World of Darkness, by the way.
Or I think it was in the Storyteller's Handbook or something, I also remember. Yep. Anyway.
Yep. So that's something. M20 Book of Secrets. It is the it's really just the Mage companion book. Has a lot of the cut material and other things that they couldn't include in the very large Mage 20th core rulebook that'll be coming out soon. So
I guess that combined with the how do you do that essentially gives you kind of a player's handbook for Mage. Because it kind of, if it's extended rules and advice and also looks at traits and so forth, then it would maybe look at how what a trait means kind of in a story sense, much like, say, what was it called? The Blood did for Vampire the Requiem.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a very good point.
Personally, I'm really looking forward to the information on subsets because, as we all know, I am a huge fan of crafts and the disparate, or whatever they happen to call them in this edition.
Yeah, it should be pretty sweet. Also coming up for Mage 20th is Book of the Fallen, a little update for the Nefandi, who are the original Mage mustache-twirling villains. So it'll be good to get them updated as well. Although I think there was a Book of the Fallen in Revised, wasn't there, Chigg?
Yes,
there was indeed.
Was it?
It covered. It was better. It was much better than the the Book of the Fallen in the first and second editions. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good to hear.
It had
Chris?
Nafandian Marauders and something else.
It
But it was pretty
it
decent.
had all the quiet types that
Yeah.
you could have. Yeah, I can't remember what the third one is called. Clarity, maybe. Anyway,
I'll take your word for it. And then Chigg, you are so excited for this last one, aren't you? You are pumped because when that Mage Kickstarter was going on, there was one stretch goal you really wanted, and then we fell short. We fell short by like $5. But
yeah,
Chigg,
like
here it is.
$6.93.
Here it is. Technocracy Reloaded. It's a 21st century guide to the technocracy, including Asian and African technocracy divisions, threat null, arrays of new gear, and potential options for infiltration, reorganization, and other surprises. Oh yeah.
Not
Given-
super thrilled about Threat Null.
I concur.
But I am very happy to see that they have moved away from the Dragons of the East. Woo woo, we're special because we're from Asia. Technocrats. That's very nice.
Given we had all the other four convention books come out recently, I say recently in the last year or so. Yeah, it'll be interesting how those now go forward into this book, and I think obviously address the Asian and African technocracy divisions. That's going to be quite interesting.
Could
Cool.
be interesting. Yeah, Threatnal Chig, I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic. I
It
like to think that
could be
they were pretty
interesting.
lame in Convention Book of Void Engineers, but maybe they're going to think about it a little bit and give them some more depth and just make them more interesting. It
Well,
could happen. It's happened before in the World of Darkness.
This is true. This is absolutely true. So, well, throw my heart into cautious optimism with you.
Are they going to revisit Panopticon as well within that? Because that was something that came out towards the end of Revised.
It doesn't say one way or the other.
Yes.
But yeah, they kind of glossed over that in the revised tradition or the revised convention books.
Yeah. Because it was in Transmissions to the Rogue Council. So, yeah, it'd be interesting, that one. Cool.
Sweet. And next up we have, of course, Wraith the Oblivion 20th Anniversary Edition. It's going to be coming out. It's going to be huge.
It's going to be coming out.
I'm going to go out and say something which is going to be shock horror for me. I think out of all the 20th anniversaries, I'll mostly pledge for that one.
No.
Yeah.
No.
One thing that was
Because-
brought up during the discussion for Wraith 20th that I thought was interesting was they currently have no plans to retread the Orpheus game line. Although it could become a stretch goal.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sweet. All right. What else we have here? Of course, Vampire the Dark Ages 20th Anniversary Edition. It's really more of a V20 book than a Dark Ages 20th. As I recall
Yes,
them saying.
because it is not the 20th anniversary of the Dark Ages line.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it might get pretty close. I mean, Dark Ages came out in 1996, I believe.
Yes, and this is scheduled to come out in 2015. So it's the 19th anniversary edition.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, they said specifically that they didn't want to wait until the 20th anniversary of the Dark Ages line to do it because they're really having fun with the Vampire 20th, and it's a Vampire 20th kind of expansion game book. So
If they do all of the Dark Ages if they do those setting books as pure expansions to the 20th anniversaries of the main game lines, I think that's mostly a better route than just doing 20th anniversary Dark Ages. I know there's some feelings that in some respects some people prefer Vampire the Dark Ages over Dark Ages Vampire. Sometimes I think that comes from like preference of the art style and maybe just how certain things are approached. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
I will agree with you with two exceptions, Chris.
Okay.
There is no Modern Knights Inquisitors game off of which they could base it, and Dark Ages Fae was horrible.
Oh, really?
Absolutely horrible.
Let's not talk about Dark Ages Fae. All right, because
I
I
have
waited.
very
I
strong
waited for how many
opinions on
years?
Dark Ages
How many
Fate.
years did I wait to get that book? All right, all these people told me it was great.
Who
I don't
told
think
you this?
I don't think they even
Who
read
lied
it,
to you?
dude. Just go on Chigg. Just go on the Onyx Path website, search Dark Ages Fae, and you'll have so many people being like, "I love this book. It was so great. It changed my life."
I told you, did I not? That
You
it was
did tell me.
Okay,
You did tell
then.
me, and I should have
And
trusted
I did
you.
my
Chigg.
due diligence.
I should have trusted you and saved my $30 or whatever. We will review Dark Ages Fae at some point. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then a couple pages of available now. Skip right through that. World of Darkness, Dark Eras. Yeah, where is that? Isn't that? Is that
That's
supposed
on
to
the
be?
very first page.
It was on the very first page, yeah.
Skipped it.
Page 2, rather. The very
Okay,
first page.
gosh, Chigg, come on, just work with me here. Work with me.
Dark Ages Fae is god awful.
Okay, so New World of Darkness, Dark Eras. I can't remember all the things we know for that. What's that? That's Vampire the Requiem set in Elizabethan London. We also
Correct.
have Changeling the Lost set in pre-revolution France. So that's Versailles as well.
Demon in the Cold War.
Yep. Geist was set when?
New Zealand in the 1950s.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it was the 50s.
Werewolf
50s.
is 70s New York.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's gonna be right.
Mage is something really, really ancient, like
Is that the Ottoman Empire?
Is it?
No, it's
I thought it was older
Alexander
than
the
that.
Great.
Wait,
It's Alexander the Great, yeah.
Mesopotamia.
Was
and all that.
Promethean the Ottoman Empire then? Because I know that there was
Nope.
one other.
Nope,
Well, what are we talking
Promethean's Great Depression?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that makes sense. The Dust Bowl era. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool book.
It is, and one of the things they announced, GenCon, is that they might have some stretch goals for other dark eras, depending on what people are really asking for during the Kickstarter. So that's definitely one to get in on the ground floor of, because you can influence, where the writers go. It would be pretty neat to have like some side PDF exploring, say, Prometheans in,
Prometheans, I think Prometheans somewhere in and around maybe something like Europe or Africa.
I really
Yes.
wanted to see actually Werewolf in the Great War. Thought that would be interesting. There was a lodge in one of the lodge source books that was pretty neat. That was discussing that. They were, of course, in the modern day, but they were born out of what was going on in the Great War. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
You say
Anyway.
Prometheans in Africa, and all I can think about is Live Aid fighting the effects of the Promethean. What's their ability where they kill everything that grows?
The Wasteland effect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Vampire the Requiem. What do we got? Secrets of the Covenants.
Yeah, if that they say it's clan book style, so obviously if that means all the information all the information they've not included in Blood and Smoke to do with the Covenants is nice and compactly given in a less dry format to read, then that's great. So it should be a good one, and also because it's clan book format, then there should be plenty of game world artifacts. So hopefully we'll get various passages from certain books. It'd be nice to see some stuff like some companion pieces to go with the Testament of Longinus. So maybe some of the apocryphal texts would be kind of useful in there.
Interesting. Now, Chris, do you think that this is going to replace the previous Covenant books for Vampire the Requiem, or is it just going to supplement?
I would say, given what amount of work has been done in Blood and Smoke to present the Covenants, I would say I would go towards sort of replacing, as in there's a lot of information in the original books, but a lot of that's already, as I said, has been distilled down into Blood and Smoke. So I think this one is just going to kind of re-examine the stuff they didn't have space for. Because you look at the list of like devotions that turn up in Blood and Smoke, and so many of them are another iteration of things that were in the Covenant books, and also the way they talk about, say, the Carthians and so forth in those books. In Blood and Smoke, it just really represents how Blood and Smoke finally grabs hold of the Covenants when the ideas are fully matured. So I think Secrets of the Covenant is going to really be a proper replacement. I could be wrong though, and
Yeah,
Oh,
I
well.
mean, we'll see what happens. And next up, we have the Idgum Chronicle,
yes.
Werewolf the Forsaken, 2nd edition.
So we have the Idgum Chronicle, and we will also have, of course, whatever the fiction anthology is for that. Cool. I mean, everything we've seen so far from Stu's blog posts about it is great, because I think the interesting thing for the system is going to be the morality system, because it'll be looking more at how that's meant to be a balance of things rather than, you want to be high humanity and so forth.
Yep.
Is there anything else we know from the blog posts? I haven't read some of them recently.
Well, the cool thing about the new morality stat with Harmony is that you want to be at 5. You want to be in the middle. You don't want to be at 10. Don't want to be at 1. So that's kind of neat. Although you do get some different effects as you lean more towards being human or more towards the more spiritual wolf side.
Yeah, it's going to be hopefully it's going to be a really good book, because again, I would say Werewolf is sometimes one of those games which, again, it's kind of hard to know exactly how you should run it. And if it can present different ways of how you run the game well, then it would go a long distance to maybe resolving issues people have who only ever see Werewolf as here's your pack, go kill spirits, and that's it. You don't want to just play Splatterpunk.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, we of course have Demon the Descent, and it lists a bunch of books that are already out. In the upcoming releases, it has a book that just came out. We should probably mention Splintered City, Seattle. It's pretty cool.
We also have that's out for the. I guess it's out to buy, and it should be out. So Splinter City Seattle is a Kickstarter stretch goal. That's, I think, free to download for backers. I can't remember my email from. Let's see. There's another book that came out though. Here we go. Richard Thomas sent you a message about Demon the Descent. And I think the other thing that's out is, here's your link to Splintered City. Here's your link to Demon the Descent interface fiction anthology. So that is now also hopefully soon to be available to non-backers as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff out for Demon. And Storyteller's Guide. Yeah, cool.
Isn't it great when you randomly get some email or Kickstarter message from Rich Thomas and you're like, oh, sweet, I just get a free book?
Yeah,
awesome.
I know. It happens far too frequently.
Yeah.
I disagree. I will take all the free books they would like to send me.
Definitely.
We missed Mage.
I was going to say, I thought maybe it wasn't in the PDF version.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, Mage the Awakening. It's pretty huge. Fallen World Chronicle. Mage the Awakening 2nd edition.
Have you read the any of the latest blog post updates on that? I haven't actually got around to reading them yet. I know there's been some stuff to do with supernal paths, maybe, and something to do with paradox, because Dave is putting out.
Yeah, let me just say that Dave Brookshaw is the man.
He's pumping out blog posts.
He's great. He's great. He's pumping them out faster than I can read them.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right. Skipping ahead. Oh, hey, Exalted. Hey,
Exalted
3rd edition. Yeah, it's taking a little while.
But if we go, I'll say planned releases again. Typical stuff. If you're going to get Exalted, or you've already backed it and you're waiting for it, obviously, the book on Dragon Blooded is always good to have. because actually potentially a really good Chronicle to play is playing Dragon Blooded. The other one on the list there that I like is Towers of the Mighty. So covers First Age ruins. That's fun. The city of Rathes is always great for its dinosaurs. And Different Skies looks interesting. That looks like Scavenger Sun's third edition to me. So that's basically the general area, the River Province we would play. I just want to see. I really just want to see Exalted's combat system. If it makes it playable, then fine.
It does have a brand new core system, so
Yeah, but we haven't seen it, and we're still waiting. So
it couldn't hurt, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I think one of the main problems. Can we just talk about Exalted for a second?
Sure.
Okay.
I think one of the main problems is that it's built off of the 1 dot to 5 dot World of Darkness system, and that doesn't give it enough granularity and difference when all of these Exalted want to have like 4 or 5 dots just to begin with. And because of that caused a lot of problems. Then you get into all the perfect defense, perfect offense mechanics, which really just drag out combat overall. This is one of those games I feel like they probably should have gone with something different, or kind of just completely rehauled the storyteller system, which is what it sounds like they're finally doing with third edition. So that's going to be good, I hope.
And hopefully they will port that more granular system over to Scion, which also suffered from that exact same problem, in my experience.
Scion and Trinity Continuum, which is the next thing in the book,
What?
are actually going to be using a whole new, brand new system, and it's not related to the original storyteller system.
Let's think. They're gonna mostly keep pools of D10s.
That's what they said.
But what else do we know that they're gonna? Well, what else do we know about this new system?
I haven't done enough research. I don't even know if they've said anything about it. But, I mean, it just kind of makes sense that they don't actually own the storyteller or storytelling systems, so they need to kind of make up their own for the games that Rich Tones and Onyx Path actually own.
That's true.
I mean, to own a system, you can't really own a die system anyway. You can't patent it.
Yeah.
So the whole point is to have a system that is distinct enough to be marketed as their own product, rather than just a spin-off.
Correct. Sweet. All right. Well, yep. Trinity Continuum. It's going to be coming out soon.
I want to point out that the first game in the Trinity Continuum game line is called Aeon. I asked about that. They are not worried about MTV suing them again, so it will be called Aeon.
Did MTV actually sue them, or just said, like, hey, we're already doing this one thing. Can we just, like, avoid any problems here?
I believe there was a threat of a lawsuit, and they just went ahead and changed the name to Trinity to avoid that threat. I'm not sure that any suit was actually filed.
That would make sense to me.
But I still have my book with the word Aeon on the cover, so it's fine by me.
Sweet. Scion 2nd Edition. That's something. I've not read Scion or really know anything about it. So
Scion
I've never played it.
It's one of those games that has a fantastic concept, and it could almost fit into the World of Darkness, almost. But it runs into that same problem that we discussed about Exalted, with the system not being granular enough or not having a wide enough range of characters. There's a lot of, in my experience in Scion, there are two kinds of characters you can make. You can make the kind of character that can never be hit, or you can make the kind of character that can never hit anything. And that goes that goes for any type of hit that you want to discuss, whether it's physical bruisers, or it's intellectual powerhouses, or it's social mavens. It's a definite issue in the game.
Sweet. All right.
So hopefully the new system will remove that.
Cool. And now we actually get to the upcoming releases. Whoops. I guess we should have started here.
Oh, I guess
Some of us tried to begin here. I'm not going to point
Right,
a finger at
listen,
anybody.
listen. Some of us didn't read this until right now, so let's just go
Well,
through,
I'm
see what
sorry,
we missed. Okay, all right. V20
There's
ghouls.
also stuff that's not in here, by the way, that was mentioned that I can
Oh,
I can
well, we
mention.
can talk about that after.
Well, there's at
Darker
least one
Days
thing.
exclusive.
One thing that I definitely want to mention, but we'll get to that at the end.
All right, V20 ghouls. So it's gonna be an update to Ghouls Fatal Addiction, which was probably the second best Vampire the Masquerade book, maybe the best.
I would put it up there in the best.
It's
I don't know
best.
what you consider better than Fatal Addiction, but it was
The Vampire Storyteller's Handbook with its appendix on the Talmahera, or the True Black Hand.
yeah. I'm still gonna go with ghouls on this one.
All right, that's acceptable. It's pretty great. So hopefully this is just as good.
Mummy
Or
the
better.
Curse. Mummy the Curse, Curse of the Blue Nile, an anthology of mummy novellas, one for each guild. That could be quite useful for
Yeah,
getting your head
hopefully.
into the game.
Exactly. Hopefully that will answer the question of what does a mummy do all day, which is kind of sometimes an issue with.
Wanders around saying Jafar Cree. No, it should be it should be useful. I mean,
That's a cultist, clearly.
obviously all the I would say all the fiction we've had for like God Machine Chronicles, Vampire the Requiem. I mean, I've not finished reading all the books. I've read enough in there though to say what ideas do turn up in there are good. So books of fiction are useful to get a feel for the setting.
And one little tidbit that they shared in the panel, the Curse of the Blue Nile is each story centers around this particular MacGuffin called the Blue Nile, and it's different in every story.
Cool.
So what it happens to be is what drives the story, but every story has a different Blue Nile.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
That's kind of a cool idea.
I thought so.
I like it. V20. Nope, sorry, W20. The Umbra.
Come on.
I'm sure Chigg will back it. Oh, it's not in Kickstarter. It's PDF POD.
Yeah, afraid so. I think that it was part of the W20 stretch goals, maybe.
Might have been. We covered all of these. What? Vampire the Requiem, 1,000 Years of Night. Chris, what is this?
Yeah. I can't remember why we've
It's
not
the
heard of this.
Elders book.
Yeah, well, if you want to play Elders for Vampire Requiem, fine. I mean, if it's a guide to how to do that with new system and so forth, then cool. Personally, I've never really ran an Elders game. I don't find it that interesting a thing to look at. It might be interesting if it provides kind of the same sort of information that's in my favorite Vampire the Masquerade book, Gilded Cage, which is how do elders live in the modern nights and deal with that type of thing.
They actually mentioned that during the during the conversation panel. That's the word.
Cool.
That instead of being, old fogies who are out of touch and don't know how to use a cell phone, elders in Requiem are pretty canny guys.
Yeah.
So it will definitely cover that you're not just playing some decrepit old fart.
Yeah, not some anachronistic person
Exactly.
who has no idea. The thing that'll be interesting about this book, though, is because Requiem vampires are elders in particular are quite different, because obviously you have things like the Invictus with their cyclic chapter houses, it's dynastic houses. So one elder awakes when another one goes to sleep, and that way they retain all their resources. And then also the other thing to do with Requiem vampires, of course, is the Fog of Ages, the Fog of Eternity, and how they deal with waking up and their memories have been messed around with due to their sleep to thin their blood. Couple that with the Strix, and there's quite a lot of unique things for elders in Requiem. Cool. What's this one? V20 Law of the Clans? Did we mention any of this one?
No, we didn't. So it's going to be mini clan books, all put together into one kind of anthology source book. So it's going to be pretty big, 240 pages, and should be pretty rad.
That's
Ooh,
just
deluxe edition as well.
just
So
the clans. It doesn't include any
Kickstarter.
of the bloodlines. However, it does include the anti-tribu, which were missing in a lot
Yeah.
of the older clan books.
They are mentioned in the revised books, but not in much detail.
Yeah, in passing.
in passing.
So
You can get a little bit of about them in the Storyteller's Guide, or just Guide to the Sabbat for
Sure.
revised.
But I mean, if I get a book about a clan, I want the entire clan, not just the half that happens to be Camarilla or the half that happens to be Sabbat for those two guys.
Well, there's only like 3 Zimitzi anti-Tribu. But anyway, what else do we have here? Promethean the Created Firestorm Chronicle fiction anthology, which seems to indicate Promethean the Created 2nd edition.
hurrah!
Yep, that's exactly what
fiction-
that is.
I would say this fiction anthology for Promethean will be really interesting.
Yep.
Looking forward to that one. There's nothing more to say about that. And Vampire the Requiem Half Damned. So this is this looks to me like a combination of books. This to me is 2nd edition Vampire the Requiem Ghouls and Vampire the Requiem Wicked Dead. So ghouls contain ghouls, and Wicked Dead contain things that were kind of like vampires, but like Kindred, but it had like the revenants and so forth. So yeah, it's just our 2nd edition version of that. So it'll be interesting how they treat certain
And
things.
you're missing the huge selling point here. It contains Dhampir. So you can finally play your Blade character.
They
in
were already
Vampire the
in.
Requiem.
They were already in Wicked
Oh,
Dead. They're already
I
in
missed
Wicked
that
Dead.
book. I'm sorry.
The thing though that's important with Vampire the Requiem is if it's covering revenants as well. So you have your revenants, you have your Draugr, and that all goes into how Vampire the Requiem has a lot more variety and how a vampire can be embraced. So that's cool. What's next up?
Shattered
Arms.
Dreams
Shattered Dreams.
for
Ooh.
Werewolf 20.
So, interestingly, it says it presents the wars, plural, of the Garou and Pharaoh. So that means, I guess, it's something even beyond the War of Rage.
I asked
specifically.
about this, and it begins in prehistory and continues through the modern nights. So they haven't exactly been open wars, but the what are they? The Naga, of course, have been waging a war of assassination forever, basically.
The Naga,
So-
do they still even exist?
Of course not. They were killed in the Wars of Rage. Don't be silly.
Right. Age of the Awakening Shards of Power, covering the physical, tangible expressions of magic, sacraments, magical tools, grimoires, and more. This was the creation of archmages. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what this is a 2nd edition version of.
It's the
but
stuff book.
It's the stuff book, yeah, it's a stuff book, and but if it's along the lines of say Reliquary for World of Darkness and so forth, and so obviously it's things with lots of plot hooks, then that's no bad thing.
Awesome. And of course, next up, well, Chigg. We can both agree that the Vampire Storyteller's Handbook with the Talmahera Appendix is clearly the best vampire book. But,
I will put that in my top 5.
But someone's trying to usurp that. Someone's trying to challenge the amazingness of that Talmahera and True Black Hand Appendix. And that man's David Hill, all right? He's coming out with the Black Hand Guide to the Talmahera for V20. I don't know if he can dominate the amazingness of the Soul Eater virus and crazy ghost baby things and the Chatterlings and all of that. Chigg, what do you think?
I don't know, man. If it doesn't say that vampirism is a disease from outer space, then I don't know how it can compare
No,
to
no, no,
previous
no,
editions.
no. It's only vicissitude. That's an outer space virus. This
Wait,
one
wasn't
could be pretty
no, no, no,
interesting.
no, 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 no. Wasn't the first adventure for Vampire that came out, 23, 24 years ago now? Was that not vampires are an outer space born monster?
Uh, no, I don't know what you're talking
What
about.
what was it
The
called?
first adventure in the Vampire First Edition core book takes place in Gary, Indiana, where you've got Juggler the Anarch and Morbius the douchebag Toreador prince.
Dang it, what am I thinking of? It'll come to me.
I think you're misremembering, sir.
It's entirely possible.
Indeed.
Wait,
But
wait, wait. What was Alien Hunger?
Alien Hunger has nothing to do with. Sorry. Alien Hunger is the one where you find out that Louis Pasteur is a vampire, and he makes a vampire serum to turn you into your player characters into vampires.
Oh God, that's right. Never
Also,
mind.
Louis Pasteur is a vampire living in Denver because
Well,
that
that's
makes
where-
sense.
That's where I would live if I were an undead Louis Pasteur.
Yeah,
It's the Mile High City.
yeah, that was a good one.
Wow.
All right, sweet. We already talked about Promethean Second Edition. Oh snap! Here it comes, guys. M20 Mage 20th Victorian Mage. Wow,
Okay.
wow. This is a big one right here.
Okay, here's what I remember from the discussion. So during this time period, 1880 to 1897, it is after the Order of Reason has been defeated, as it were, by the traditions. So the traditions are all on top of their respective world. There is a resurgence in
Occultism.
occultism with the founding of the Order of the Golden Dawn. So they think that they have all won, and of course they then fall to infighting. Meanwhile, there's this new group out there that calls itself the Technocracy, which is completely brand new and just sprung up overnight from somewhere. We don't really know where. And it turns out that they may be, at some point, a minor threat to the victorious Victorian mages.
Could be
You
interesting.
see, that's cool and great, and is what I would love the focus to be kind of on this kind of like, I guess, Victorian kind of spy kind of thriller, as secret societies fall and rise. What I don't want is this to be Sons of Either circle jerk.
Well, you're in luck because the Sons of Ether don't exist yet.
Oh yes, thank fuck. Good.
They are the Electrodyne engineers,
Yeah.
so don't worry, your steampunk fantasies can be realized.
No, please, Chigg. If there's any Onyx Path writers out there, I beseech you, don't pander. Don't do steampunk. Just don't do it. Okay? Steam technology's been around for a while, right? If you're gonna do something punk, do electricity punk.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense, Do some cool contraptions. Oh wait, they become real. And electricity's not really a new discovery, but it's used in many new inventions in the late Victorian period. So I think that would really work. So if you're gonna punk something, punk with electricity.
And also, writers, this period was covered briefly in the Guide to the Traditions, and there was mention of a Promethean plague, where everybody wants to go out and mimic Dr. Frankenstein to unforeseeably catastrophic ends. So if you want to include that as a little chronicle idea, might be worth the ink.
All right, what else we got here? Getting towards the end. New World of Darkness, The Hurt Locker. It's basically another armory book, so that'll be cool. It'll update and expand combat and different combat things, items for the new God Machine Chronicles update. Should be good.
if it covers, if it updates all their stuff for how to play military-based characters, that'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if you have all those weapons, you may as well have some backgrounds and traits that make it more viable to represent some military organization.
Yeah, that was Dogs of War that really
was that
discussed.
an N?
Yeah, yeah, it's New World
Okay.
of Darkness Blue Book, New World of or World of Darkness, Dogs of War.
Okay.
I read some of it. It's like the first chapter was basically just like, let's talk about what the American Army is, and I was like, okay, not really that exciting. Not to say it's a bad book, but anyway, yes, it would be good if that was expanded upon in some ways for the new God Machine rules. Jumping ahead, V20 Beckett's Jihad Diary. That's something. I'm literally. Let me just read the.
It's not necessarily just another, hey, here's some awesome characters we came up with book. In addition to, hey, here's some awesome characters, it will also provide various ideas and chronicle examples of how to run and how to play in a jihad campaign. So, for instance, if you want to if you want to know how the Sabbat besiege and take over a city from the Camarilla, or vice versa, the information should be somewhere in this book.
Oh, okay, this one. Yeah. This is the one that also includes a how-to guide if you want to run different existing Vampire the Masquerade Chronicles, like the Transylvania Chronicles and the Giovanni Chronicles. So it's finally gotten to the point with the vampire metaplot that they decided, like, we should probably put out a source book that explains how you use all of our other source books.
That's crazy talk, Matt. Why would we need that?
My name's Mike.
What did I say?
You said Matt.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. That's crazy talk, Mike. Why would we need that?
Yeah, why would we? But what we do need is Changeling the Lost, 2nd edition anthology, The Huntsman Chronicle.
Yeah, that's gonna rock. Change the Lost is perhaps one of the most loved NWAD games there is. So to actually have an anthology of fiction based on all of that, it should be ultra creepy.
And of course, this is summer of 2015, so the actual 2nd edition itself should be out sometime in the fall of 2015.
Yep, should be pretty great. Of course, we have W20 Changing Ways, talking about psychology and culture of the Guru, their different hunter and religious aspects, so that should be pretty
The Changing Ways sounds super interesting.
Indeed.
It will, in addition to just being, how to think like a guru, it will also include stuff like, well, in the old books, it always talked about how they had their special, etiquette and what exactly they do to show that etiquette, to show submission or domination, was never really covered in any great detail. So supposedly, this is going to be the book that explains how you actually role play as a guru.
Yeah. So
in that society.
It's W20 answer to Blood of the Wolf, which was for Werewolf the Forsaken, which did kind of the same things.
Exactly.
Which is good. Cool.
I agree.
awesome. And of course, last thing on the list, most important, Digital Web 3.0. That's right, Digital Web for the new millennium.
It'll be interesting to see how different it is from the previous two, because the internet is certainly not what what was ever imagined back then. So,
what are you talking about? Just yesterday, I put on my VR goggles and I was in a cyberspace cafe.
Really?
Were you guys not there too? God. Whatever.
And with that, we're finally done with this. It's an hour into the show, guys, and we haven't gotten to our actual segments. So let's.
But wait, there's more. But wait.
No. Oh, that's right, Chigg.
More.
You have cool things you want to talk
biggest
about.
and best announcement of the convention. Not even in their book.
Oh, right.
Changeling the Dreaming. 20th anniversary edition. Confirmed.
Huzzah. Hey, Chigg, are you a developer for it?
They do not yet have a developer for this line, and in fact may not go with a single developer, but instead a development team.
Yeah, I think they should have a unified vision for Changeling. I haven't read
Why
a lot of
start
Changeling
now?
books. I haven't read a lot of them, but let me just say, probably having a unified vision would be a good thing for that game line.
Why start now, Mike? Come on. They've never had a single
That's
vision.
right. We have 20 years of tradition. Got to stick with it, of just being a chaotic game.
But I have faith that the 20th anniversary edition that will probably be announced officially in next year's brochure will be everything I hope for and everything I dream. And if it's not, I won't cry for more than a few years.
Maybe you should just try being cautiously optimistic.
No. I'm pinning every hope and dream on this.
Okay. All right, Chigg.
What is the worst that could happen, Mike? Come on.
Ever read?
Don't actually answer that question.
And with that, let's move on over to the classic World of Darkness.
Classic World of Darkness.
Okay, we just talked about a whole lot of books. So let's talk about something that isn't books. Let's talk about Chronicles, everyone. So a pretty cool idea that Chris had a while back was actually for Darkling episodes called Skeletons in the Closet, where we take a Chronicle idea we have and just kind of, present it to everyone and talk about it, kind of brainstorm some ideas and just kind of see what happens. So we decided for this episode that Chris and I would both present a Chronicle.
Yay!
Yeah, finally making use of this segment idea, which you came up with at least 2 years ago, maybe 3.
Yeah, I think it's a. If people want to send in their ideas to us, so we can dissect, examine, take the piss, whatever, it'll be good because finding decent secret frequencies can get very hard when you've done them all. So this is just a different way of presenting story ideas.
Yep, and actually we do have a good email, which would be perfect to talk about this episode, but since we're already an hour in, we're probably going to cover that some other time, maybe as a full segment. So anyway, let's talk about Classic World of Darkness. Let's talk about Vampire. So this is actually kind of a sad thing for me to discuss this Chronicle idea, because I actually started to run it and then, due to some technical and scheduling difficulties, kind of fell through, which is unfortunate.
It happens.
It does. In fact, Chigg, I was running this online. I was going to try to do a couple sessions, and Chigg was one of the players. So I'm going to spoil everything, Chigg. Everything.
Hold on, let me put my my blinkers on, my blinders, so I don't see anything that you're spoiling.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. You can listen to it.
Okay.
So the original idea came up with quite some time ago. I was just looking at the Salubri and the Cappadocians, and both clans have the disciplines Auspex and Fortitude. And I was just like, that's pretty interesting. Kind of unexpected. And it just so happens that these are the two clans which were usurped by the Tremere and the Giovanni, respectively. So that was just kind of neat. Which led me to kind of start to come up with a cool player character idea, which would be a caitiff with both Auspex and Fortitude. He would then be suspected and probably hunted by the Tremere and Giovanni of the city. Which, would be pretty tough, but, you're a caitiff, so if you're playing that clan, you're usually going to be in a pretty rough situation. Ends up actually not using this player character, although I did try to get into a game with him. But, I started to actually form some ideas over time of actually using this NPC as kind of a springboard for player characters to get into a situation with maybe an actual Salubri character. There's only seven of them in the world of Darkness at this time, besides the Salubri Antitribu. So it would be, kind of interesting to have, this one unsuspecting caitiff lead the player characters to him. Another idea, actually, is kind of just a separate note, is I was playing around with some ideas of running a game where all the characters are the same clan. I thought that would be kind of neat. Because that kind of lets you... Because the clans in Vampire, for example, are typically stereotypes. So it's very easy for you to make a Bruja and be like, well, I'm going to make this biker dude. He's pretty angry. That's kind of the image you see, and that's what the splat text in, say, Vampire Revised kind of supports. So I wanted to just pick one clan and then explore some different character types beyond just the static stereotype. Since I was playing around with the idea of using the Salubri, which are the old healer clan, which were usurped by the Tremere, which are the modern sort of magician clan of the Camarilla in Vampire, I just went with the Tremere. Because they have a lot of options for powers as well, which gives you a lot of variety due to the thaumaturgy powers. So that led me to the Tremere Chronicle. Just playing around with some ideas for a chronicle involving a bunch of Tremere characters, exploring their clan politics history, and the horrible acts they've done in the past. What could go wrong? I'm kind of going to go through some of my general chronicle design philosophies and how I typically approach these. I actually do have a little article I was writing for the next Forgotten Lore fanzine, so that I could put these down on paper. It's something I didn't really intend to do, but it's what I've noticed overall over time. It's kind of the way I approach designing one-shots and chronicles and all of that. So what I typically do is I first start by picking out a city. That's usually pretty beneficial for World of Darkness games, especially Vampire, which is set up to explore specific city politics. I chose Boston because it's the city I live in or just outside of. I know it pretty well, and it's pretty easy for me to just think up people, places on the fly. So that's definitely pretty useful. Boston itself has some canonical benefits because it's been discussed in different source books. Some later revised source books kind of describe it as a Camarilla city, which is actually controlled by the Giovanni, which is kind of a neat political setup to start off with. There is another resource exploring Boston, which is the Dark Colony source book. It's a region book that explores all of New England. It's not a very good source book, in my opinion. I don't really like the political structure they present, but I was able to grab the Prince of Boston and a few of the local primogen from that, just to make designing the local Camarilla politics a bit easier. Especially because they're not really the focus of this game. We'll get into that in a second. Another thing I want to, at this point, once I have a city, I start to kind of create these centers of conflict. The idea is that it's very easy to start sitting down and writing a plot for your World of Darkness games, and then once you take that plot, actually, give it to the players and start to explore it and play, it really just falls apart. It doesn't hold up. The players start going in a completely different direction, and that can really damage your game overall because you're reeling from that. So instead, I like to pick out some core themes and conflicts, these centers of conflict, which you can use to really just form a basis for your different sessions and keep those in mind as you're running a game, so you can be pretty agile with reacting to the players. The three centers of conflict I actually chose for this are the Salubri, of course, because they're going to be running into a Salubri character. Tremere politics, since they're all three characters were Tremere. And then also, I guess, thaumaturgical politics, or the interactions between different thaumaturgical societies, since that's a pretty major component of the Tremere is their blood magic. So just to kind of explain these really quick, the Salubri would probably be the primary supernatural threat, and I kind of use that in quotation marks. The player characters would track down a lead on the Salubri, which turns out to be this caitiff. He's a physician who's treating the local homeless and using them for a herd. So they're tracking him down, thinking that he's some sort of a demon soul-sucking Salubri, and they find out that he's actually nothing of the sort. He's really just a caitiff. Of course, the Giovanni have also been tipped off about this character and think that he's a Cappadocian. This would probably be because a local vampire is trying to stir up some conflicts between these two clans. Specifically, when I ran the first session, I intended for it to be the Nosferatu primogen Warwick, who's, fun fact, from the Dark Colony sourcebook. So this, of course, brings the player characters into conflict with some of the local Giovanni ghouls, and they might fight them, might talk their way out. They might go and run away, hide in the car. Chigg.
Yeah.
Running and hiding is a valid strategy.
It was an extremely valid strategy. I only wish that the other player characters had followed you. This, of course, brings us to a situation. The actual game that we ran, one of the characters, Alex's, was pretty badly hurt. I think he had 6 dots of aggravated damage. Not a good position to be in. And this, of course, causes Victor, the caitiff, to call upon his, I guess, secret mentor, or we'll go with mentor. This, of course, is a salubri, which means that the player characters themselves are now faced with one of these soul-sucking demons, and they have to start to investigate, make choices, possibly capture and just kill this unfortunate bloodline member. But there would be some very interesting things to explore from there. This then would lead the characters to start to explore the Tremere history some more, finding out about the usurpation of the Dark Ages, and it would also actually let them start to explore Salubri history a bit more, especially when one of the characters kind of sprouts up a third eye, which is one of the kind of the weakness of the or one of the features of the Salubri. Which would kind of indicate that there is really a shared common ancestry between the Tremere and this enigmatic bloodline. Another thing to explore, another center of conflict is, of course, Tremere politics. It's not as important as the kind of overarching Salubri story, but it's definitely playing around in the background. To demonstrate this, I wanted to have two major players, basically, in the Tremere that would be facing off against each other. So, of course, there's the local primogen, which the player characters all began indebted to, whether they were working for the primogen or they were actually bloodbound to her. Additionally, there is a new regent for the local chantry, which is the kind of Tremere base of operations, house of learning, and kind of common shared haven in some cases. So they start off. Basically, these two are in conflict because the new regent is rather old and powerful and is coming into the city trying to assert his authority, and it decides to use the player characters as a sort of gateway into the local politics. So this could kind of show the infighting of the Tremere pyramid and kind of have some cool ideas for just kind of demonstrating how the Tremere interact with themselves. And then finally, let's talk about magical politics. This is kind of an interesting situation. So the Tremere and the Giovanni are the two basic clans that have the built-in thaumaturgy or path-based blood magic. Tremere of thaumaturgy, Giovanni of necromancy. So it's pretty easy to take those two and have them face off against each other on this sort of magical playing field. Giovanni are kind of a cool clan, but unfortunately they're very similar to the Tremere in that they have their own mafia-style pyramid scheme going on. They kind of feel like, in a lot of ways, that they're just Cool Ranch Tremere, in my opinion. So I really wanted to... and I didn't want to have a Cold War situation either, where it's just these two monolithic factions going against each other. I really wanted to include a third faction. And there's quite a few smaller groups that have thaumaturgy options. The followers of Set have their own thaumaturgy. The Assamites have sorcerers, a few of them. Bali kind of feel like they have thaumaturgy in some ways. And maybe you could even go with the Samidi and their Thanatosis. But actually, what I decided to do was grab the Circle of the Crone from Vampire the Requiem, because they have more of a religious basis to their Kurok sorcery, as opposed to the pyramid schemes, as I mentioned, of the Tremere and the Giovanni. So I thought that would be pretty neat to use. And then Also, there's a perfect location for them, which is Salem, Massachusetts, just north of Boston. So that was pretty easy to just work them in right into that location, where it would be pretty easy for them to hide out. So those are really the centers of conflicts that would be driving the story. So you could see that once the player characters ran into the Salubri, maybe they would imprison them, maybe they would kill or diablerize. I'm not really sure how it would all play out. But this sets them down a path where they have to explore the history of their clan, learning about different places they've been, perhaps going to Vienna. One thing I definitely wanted to work in was a trip to some old Salubri ruins, maybe in the Asia Minor somewhere. Kind of having this Indiana Jones archaeological exploration scene for maybe half a session or even a full session. I thought that would be pretty neat. And I, in fact, made a pre-made character specifically like Bear Grylls so that we could have some fun with that. Another thing that would be pretty interesting to work in would be perhaps some Salubri Antitribu. They exist in quite some number in the Sabbat, and it would be pretty easy for them to come in and maybe if this Salubri was captured and imprisoned, maybe they would try to spring him out and attack the Tremere Chantry. That could be kind of neat. The other idea I had was, depending on how everything turns out, maybe these 3 player characters really become sympathetic towards the Salubri. It might be interesting just after the game's all done, be like, hey, everyone, thanks for playing in the Salubri Chronicles. When the entire time they thought it was the Tremere Chronicles. So there you go, guys. That's kind of the basic idea right there. I think it's a pretty cool game. Maybe if this Exalted group I'm in decides to play some Vampire, I can use it on them in the future. Could be pretty neat. But what do you guys think? Are there any glaring issues? Any other aspects I should include in this overall Chronicle structure?
I think the idea of having them all from the same clan to investigate the clan politics is quite similar to something I would want to do with Requiem, which is where they're all members of the same covenant, and in that case it's the Ordo Dracal, because I think there's something really fun to play there where the politics intersects with the philosophical, magical kind of research, and how different branches of that larger group have different approaches, and there's this kind of internal rivalry that they have to deal with rather than just the classic external conflicts. So the idea of a Tremere Chronicle from that point of view, coupled with the origins of the Tremere and the Salubris, very interesting, because there's the whole thing of like them having to gain the prestige to go into certain archives in a chantry house, let's say in a different country, and that kind of, I guess, builds into the idea you want to do this Indiana Jones kind of thing where they then go off to some ancient ruin.
I thought that could be cool. All right, Chigg.
Yeah, I was totally just going to turn the guy into my boss for brownie points. I was not going to delve too deeply into the backstory. Just, oh, hey, I've heard of you. You're the bad guy, and just sell him right out.
Yep. And that was definitely an option that could have happened. Yeah, there's definitely some ways, if that happens in this Chronicle, to kind of play with things a bit more. If you just turned him over, I would probably keep him alive for a little bit. He would just be imprisoned in the Chantry, which would then play into the Tremere politics, as maybe the regent wants to kind of interrogate and explore why this Salubri was here, find out more. And also, because this regent's far older, he might actually remember what truly happened with the usurpation. But then you have this Primogen character who wants to turn the Salubri in higher up in the pyramid scheme for more brownie points as well. So you have that whole interplay going on. And additionally, if this Salubri is still alive once one of the characters sprouts a third eye, then, well, you might want to go talk to that person, see what you can do. Of course, then Chigg's character probably wants to turn in the person with the third eye.
Oh yeah,
for more brownie points.
Oh yeah, I'm all about the brownie points.
Yeah, It would be interesting. It would be.
I gotta
interesting.
climb that ladder somehow, man. And if the first rung is your dead body, well,
Hey man, you're just playing vampire. Just playing vampire.
exactly.
Yep. So that's all pretty good. One of the ideas I was playing with Chigg, and I want you to be on the level with this. This was just like an initial end game, which I was never really too happy with. But it was just like a goal to kind of work towards, and then hopefully I would think of something better before we actually got to it. Would be that towards the end, because you have this character, and maybe all the characters would end up sprouting third eyes, is you would eventually end up with this sort of like Tremere Salubri hybrid bloodline. Which would be kind of like a cool epic ending to it, is that, whoa, you and your player characters make your own bloodline. That's pretty neat in Vampire the Masquerade. But it strikes me as just a little hollow, maybe not too original. I don't know how it would really play out. What's your thinking here? Maybe is there something cooler I could do than just
I'm a pretty big fan of the Salubri in general, but I'm really not sure what you would do with that and how you would keep this basically heretical, oh no, demon tainted line alive. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, it's definitely
Like-
pretty tough.
Like, yeah, okay, so there's 4 of us, and there's 7 real Salubri somewhere in the world, maybe. But I mean, how do you prevent yourself from being eaten by everybody else in the chantry, or how do you prevent them from convincing the prince, hey, look, they're summoning demons, and we know this because they were summoning demons in our house. We should totally call a blood hunt on them.
Yep. No,
What's kind of the long-term strategy there?
I didn't have one. That's why I was trying to think of
Oh.
something better. That would just be more of like a kind of an ending. Wouldn't really explore what happened afterwards, after this was kind of created. And I also couldn't really figure out a good point to it. Like, why would I just combine these two clans?
Is there anything you can derive from anything to do with the Order of Hermes, and from whichever chronicle book it was that detailed the conflict between the Tremere and those mages? Maybe it's
blood treachery.
maybe it's
yeah.
So maybe the amalgamation of the bloodlines is perhaps some form of, I don't know, maybe it's some sort of mage kind of curse.
It could be. Blood Treachery is not a super great source book. I'm not sure if Chigg read it. As I understand it,
I've not.
it's
Blood
basically
treasure?
the Order of Hermes go to the Tremere Mega Chantry, knock on the door, and then start throwing fireballs. But then,
Oh, no. We're talking about the Mage source book. Yeah. I really enjoyed that book.
Really?
Really? I mean, I really like the Tremere. I really like Mage. It kind of worked for me. It's definitely a full chronicle book presented in a single source book. So you would really have to do a lot of work yourself expanding that to make it into a full chronicle. But yeah, I really like the idea there.
yeah, it's a cool
it's fun.
idea. I'm not sure if it was a good execution. I've not seen a
Yeah,
solid review
well,
of it.
like I said, it's a good skeleton on which you can hang the meat of your own chronicle. But yeah, it's a good start.
Okay. So there we go. Basically, I need more work on the end game of this. Is basically, I think, what we're coming to here.
Also, I'm curious as to what the Bear Grylls character would do, because vampires don't drink urine. So
You could feed off of rats. He must be really good at that.
sure,
Maybe I should have given him a dot in animalism.
that would have been a really good idea.
Yeah.
It makes trapping rats for food that much easier.
Yep, exactly. Okay. So anything else here, or should we move on to the secret frequency?
Let's do the secret frequency then.
All right, sweet.
So we're going to cover the Phantom Cosmonauts of the USSR. So obviously we had the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union, and of course they were vying to be the first to have viable space transport and obviously land on the moon to prove their capabilities in such technologies, which of course when you want to be able to deliver nuclear weapons upon your enemies, space rockets are pretty good at that. And this concerns the idea of these people known as lost cosmonauts, because obviously there have been numerous accidents in space over time. The theory is that in Italy, there were a pair of brothers, Achille and Giovanni Giudica Cordiglia. The brothers were amateur radio operators who had already become well known for picking up transmissions from Sputnik and Sputnik 2 and the probe that sent up Laika, the space dog, and so it was sending back transmissions of her heartbeats. So on November 28th, 1960, the brothers were alerted to something strange. An East German observatory announced that they had picked up a strange signal on the Soviet space frequencies. The brothers tuned in and they found the signal sounded like a hand-keyed SOS. More disturbing was that the signal showed no relative speed, and it can mean only one thing: it was on a distant course away from the planet. As the brothers listened, the signal grew weaker and weaker until it finally winked out. The brothers apparently had discovered evidence that there was a Soviet space capsule that had gone off course and had drifted out into the outer cosmos. 2 months later, the brothers detected another transmission. This time, it seemed to be the laboured breaths of an unconscious man and his heartbeat. When they played this to their father, who was a cardiologist, he came to the conclusion that the heartbeat was of a man suffering cardiac arrest. 2 days later, the Soviets announced the failed re-entry of a large unmanned spacecraft. Then, in April 1961, the brothers picked up the transmissions of Yuri Gagarin, but that wasn't the end of it, because obviously Yuri Gagarin was of course meant to be the first official person in space in orbit of the Earth. So what was more disturbing was that in May that year they picked up a new transmission. It was a woman's voice speaking Russian. She seemed calm and professional in her tone, and then as she went on, she became more panicked, and then eventually the transmission ended. The translation of this message is, "Isn't this dangerous? Talk to me. Our transmission begins now. I feel hot. I can see a flame. Am I going to crash? Yes, I feel hot. I will re-enter." So, the Cold War Russia obviously has numerous secrets to it, and it's well documented there were a number of cosmonaut deaths before Gagarin's spaceflight. The most well-known of these was Grigory Nelyubov, who was a cosmonaut who committed suicide in 1966 after being bounced from the program, apparently erased from records. He was even airbrushed out of photos and numerous other things. So, of course, these signals from these lost cosmonauts were never confirmed. The Soviet Union never acknowledged them. And given the level of secrecy, there's never been any confirmation of where these come from. So, how do we use the Phantom Cosmonauts of the USSR? I would say that there are numerous things you could go with. In New World Darkness, obviously, these are signals from capsules that have been sent by a branch of the Soviet space program to try and make contact with the God Machine. And we're expecting these cosmonauts to return at some point, having been made part of the God Machine's workings now that they have been elevated to become angels. Maybe the cosmonauts will return, though, by different means. They will return as human hosts of the Idigum, who have finally escaped their prisons on the moon, or maybe other strange astral bodies. Another idea is maybe these spaceships, these craft, make contact with some sort of maybe a comet or an asteroid of some form. And so you can get some idea of that idea from maybe, it's not a great film, but maybe Life Force, which deals with an alien spacecraft that is within Halley's Comet and is populated by strange vampiric alien creatures. So yeah, maybe these cosmonauts come back as a form of Strix-like spirit, but they are vampires of some form. Or perhaps they return, their bodies having been fused together with due to the strange energies that exist out in space, like the Van Allen radiation belts and cosmic rays, and come back as a seventh form of Promethean. Promethean that fuels cosmic energy. Yeah, that's just a few ideas off the top of my head.
One idea you could work with here is that perhaps this individual was actually not a cosmonaut on re-entry. Specifically the woman who is feeling the heat and burning. Maybe she was actually going into the Earth. And actually, in recent news, there were some strange, almost bottomless pits that were found in Siberia, in Russia. So it's quite possible that maybe this person was exploring the center of the Earth, as opposed to coming in from outer space.
That's kind of cool. The other thing you could possibly do with any of these is, while you have a signal, you don't know when it was sent, so there could be some weird time anomaly / paradox, something going on, and so the signal that these are sent on and everything, maybe these aren't from the Soviet space program, but are actually signals from Russian cosmonauts from the future, and something there. So it's a prelude to their arrival, and then we have to deal with what happens at that time when we finally catch up with it. Anything for classic World of Darkness? There's mostly something we can do with technocracy, some sort of technocratic program that's gone wrong. Maybe.
This is how the Void Engineers shunted their paradox.
Yes.
So
paradox
because it's a new technology. Of course, it is prone to paradox because all technology is just magic by another name. So they had to erase these people from the timeline, which they did quite literally using time magic, which is why you can't really capture these. There's no information of them. You can't find any pictures of these people. They weren't airbrushed out. They were removed using a time procedure. They not only did they not exist in the cosmonaut space program, they did not exist in time, period.
What if these signals allow for a way for the dead cosmonauts to so imagine that that in modern times you pick up a signal from their capsule wherever it has gone out into space, and what returns is some sort of cosmic ghost. So an idea for Wraith.
So are you talking about a dark kingdom of void?
Yeah,
because I really like this idea.
A dark kingdom of the dead of space.
It's a very, very small kingdom.
It'd be
But-
populated by a very select amount of individuals.
Very, very few people are in this dark kingdom, and it's inaccessible to most raids due to the whatchamacallit,
Tempest.
there you go, the Tempest. And but the race of this dark kingdom are insanely powerful.
Because they didn't get hit by the maelstrom. Yeah.
Ooh. Oh.
And
Oh.
because they are way out there and they have no one to guide them and nothing along those lines when they die, their shadows are not, while their shadows are super duper mega powerful and may have even taken them over and made them into what's the word I'm looking for here, Mike?
Spectres.
Spectres.
Mm.
Yeah, I know all the pronouns or nouns, proper nouns. That's what I want. All right, Chigg. So in Changeling the Dreaming, the moon landing
The
awakened.
moon landing
and-
in 1969 is what brought back the She, yes. So there is a connection to space in Changing the Dreaming. It's possible that to prepare the way for the Shining Host to return, there had to first be a blood sacrifice, a tithe, as it were, a Fey Tane, where you had to give 7 of your best and brightest to the Fae every so many years to keep them from just utterly destroying your civilization. So perhaps the lost cosmonauts are the tithe to the Fae, so that they could keep their claim on Arcadia.
But Chigg, who would be sacrificing these individuals? What kind of a cult in the Changeling universe would be doing such a thing? It couldn't be any commoners, could it?
No, of course not. It is the USSR themselves in a last-ditch effort to beat the American powerhouse that was just slowly destroying their communist way of life. The Russian High Command decided to try anything and everything that they could think of that might possibly work, and that included some sketchy magic that might bring back their own version of the She. And in fact, eventually, the She House did come back. I think it was House Verich, or was it House Asin? The Russian-themed changeling house.
Intriguing. And in many ways, now that I think about it, the Changeling setup does actually somewhat reflect Russian communist government, doesn't it? You have the She and the Communist Party on top, and then pretty much everyone else on the bottom, just the commoners, who are all pretty much the same. It's really a modern post-Concordance War effect that you can actually have commoners that are knights and that sort of thing.
Indeed. It is a completely modern creation, except for a few very loyal trolls and redcaps among the unseelie.
Interesting. So there you go. There's your Changeling plot hook of the episode.
Gotta have one.
Yep. All right, and I think with that, let's move on over to the New World of Darkness skeleton in the closet.
World of Darkness 2.0.
So my chronicle outline is for something which I have yet to run, and it is for Geist the Sin Eaters. My Latin is mostly crap for the title of this. It's Memento Mori e Memento Sanguinus, which should basically say remember the dead, remember how they bleed, or something to that effect. So the idea is that they're this group of Sin Eaters are in modern Paris, because of course Paris has layered history ranging from ancient times, Roman, medieval, Tudor, Renaissance, Revolutionary, Napoleonic, 2 World Wars, and of course now. Also, as we said, Paris has some interesting history. We've said in previous Dark Days, interesting history to do with alchemy. We have the catacombs of Paris, where people would flee, and where you can find skeletons that have been kept, or ossuaries, and so forth. The main antagonist for this chronicle is to be a mage, though more importantly, it's a ghost mage. So, okay, that's interesting. Anyway, so the ghost mage is to do with in Mage the Awakening. A mage can even in death retain their abilities over their arcana. So this mage has a very simple reason for what he wants to do, which is to I'm just reading all the metal, whatever that is.
We're messing with Chris.
You're messing with me on reading stuff.
What?
Anyway,
No,
yeah,
that's crazy
you
talk.
bastards. So anyway, the mage, this ghost mage, wants to rework reality so that he is once more alive, and also so is one of his loved ones. And to do this, it requires him seeking out an abyssal artifact known as the Globe of Tesseract. If anyone knows what a Tesseract is a four-dimensional cube. So Globe of Tesseract, of course, sounds completely crazy. The point about this is that the globe, of course, has been lost for centuries, decades, years, millennia, and was last used in Pompeii. So the whole point about this globe is it's able to rework reality in a time and a more material way. So it reworks the geography of the world, and in doing so, if you rework that, certain events can never have happened. So essentially, he's looking to remove Paris from reality. His attempt, of course, to regain this will mean involving the underworld, creating an Averilian gate to this nightmare realm of ash and volcanic activity. And there's another relic that he needs, which is held by a mummy. So the outline of this is that the players, being Sin Eaters, there aren't many Sin Eaters in the world, will, to begin with, have to deal with a series of bizarre deaths involving Roman funerary rites, people being undergoing spontaneous combustion, other events of, say, drowning. And these are all representative of the angry and vengeful dead that come from this domain in the underworld, which is representative of the dead of Pompeii. And then the next element would be, because it's meant to be quite a short chronicle with kind of loose-fitting episodes that go together. And so the next kind of thing I wanted to tap on in it is the idea of kind of like the classic Ghost in the Machine type thing. And so the Ghost Mage is going about killing people to gain the correct magical numbers, which would be able to a part of the ritual to use this globe. And that results in some ghostly going on, where the troop would have to deal with the victims of the extraction of these numbers, and the victims, their ghosts will be interacting with technology and with computers and so forth. Then the next episode I had was to deal with some insane murderer who was in an asylum who is now free, known as the Paris Eye Stealer. And each of his kills leaves behind a rather strange ghost, and a victim brought back by his ritual murders from the domain of the blind Hyperion. So these dead can see your sins, and so they will be they'll be lashing out because they can see people's innate sin. And the whole point about that episode is just to kind of break up the chronicle so that the troop of sin eaters are dealing with obviously a very strange mystery, but also having to deal with the fallout of the dead due to a very mortal killer. So the Eye Stealer is essentially working through the list of people, so the members of the jury at his trial. Episode 4, Memories of Irem, is to do with the ghost of a ghost who dates all the way back to Irem, who's unleashed as a tool by the Ghost Mage in order for him to gain the artifact from one of the Risen. Of course, when the Risen wakes up, there's going to be a whole load of hell unleashed as numerous people will die around him, and so there's a massive burst of ghostly apparitions and activity that the troop would have to deal with there, and that would bring them directly into conflict with one of the Risen, who have, can display massive amounts of power and control over the undead or the dead. The next part, episode 5, Memories of the World, is how this ghost mage has basically gone to is raising the dead of a ghost from graveyards, so that he has a member of someone that has died on every continent. Or comes from each continent, so he can have these souls, and the conflict then for this one I wanted to be against a more Japanese self-styled Oni type ghost, who is obviously seeking out revenge and retribution due to his emotional investment in the events of World War II. So that's more of a, again, just to bring some more cultural diversity into the game to deal with how different ghosts kind of portray themselves. The 6th episode in this is Memories of Pangaea. So the Ghost Mage needs a few other things for his ritual, and this one is he needs a bone from the world before our own. So in other words, this is he needs a particular bone of a particular dinosaur. And this theft will reawaken the spirit of one of these long-lost beasts. So again, that allows me to tap into the kind of spirit-ghost kind of combination that you get with you can get in the World of Darkness, and allows me just to kind of have an antagonist that is more similar to kind of a Magath from Werewolf the Forsaken. And then finally, the final episode is, of course, the grand conclusion of this, and relies on potentially in any of this as a location within the depths of the Paris catacombs. And that's generally the outline. I did start writing up. I've got like the first two episodes potentially written up with various kind of puzzles and clues in there. The main thing that keeps popping up is there's some quotes from Revelations and some Latin stuff, which the ghost in the first episode would say that taps into their origin. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my kind of chronicle outline for Geist.
Sounds pretty rad, Chris. Yeah, definitely the episodic nature is pretty good for flexibility, so I'm guessing you're going to just complete each episodic story in one session. Is that the intent?
Normally I find it takes me at least 2 sessions to run an episode through fully. And also, by using the episodes as they are, I think there's enough so that they are self-contained, and it relies a certain amount on the players to kind of, they'll be given enough clues. They'll be given the clues will be there, and it's really up to the players on how much they can get, have a shortcut to the end. Because one of the things this turned up in discussion of how you run mysteries and puzzles is that the last thing you want to do is that the reliance of the players to progress further in the plot or to gain an advantage in the plot is based purely on dice rolls. As in, oh well, you didn't see that clue because you didn't roll high enough. That's generally crap because at least one member in the troupe will have an investigative skill ability high enough that they will, on walking into the room and or area and walking around, will gain access to a certain amount of obvious clues to them. And so really the whole point then is that you're dishing out after that anything that they then put effort into gives them the chance to come to a better conclusion that gives them a better advantage in later episodes.
Okay. I take
And
the
also-
opposite approach where if there's like a clue that you need to find, you just ask everyone to take the rolls or whatever. And usually I just do that to stall a little bit as I'm thinking of what the actual clue is going to be.
No, it's normally because I have the clues kind of sorted out. So the fact is that I put in red herrings as well. So I want to see the players feel like they're putting the puzzle together, and then without having to store them in that way. So it's something more that I've seen. It's an approach that comes more from playing in Trail of Cthulhu, so the gumshoe system. So you're kind of just letting people have a certain amount of you find stuff relatively quickly without having to roll stuff. Let's see, what else can I say about the first episode? I mean, the first episode, there's a number of different kind of bodies. So, for example, in the catacombs, they'll find, because the idea is that the crew will mostly trawl the catacombs of Paris because it gives them easy access to ghosts, and of course they're closer to the underworld there because it's these low places that have gateways to the underworld. For example, one of they'll find an angry ghost who has their clothes are burnt. They have obols, so coins, stitched onto their tongue, which hangs loose from their mouth. There's a smell of embalming fluids, and they speak. They speak out this passage from Revelation 14:11, which is the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night. These worshippers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives the mark of its name. And so some of these things are clues, and some of them are just to really make the ghost seem like it's acting out in some particular way. So I'll even have some of these things I've taken from passages, and I'll actually read them out in Latin instead, because then it'll be really kind of weird. For example, the second victim in this is drowned in the sewers, so that's representative of the fact that these angry ghosts from Pompeii are looking to share their pain and end their pain. So it's either they're immolating people or they're wanting to drown to get rid of the flames that they still feel. And so again, there's some the ghost of the second victim will have like wastewater and mud spill from its mouth continuously while garbling in Latin Atlas Telemon, which obviously means something to do with the world. And of course, the key thing here then is that in one hand, this victim holds around a globe-like mass of mud and filth, which has traces of volcanic ash in there. So there's loads of little bits to take from there. The angry dead of Pompeii, I was going to have take the form of hellhounds. So they're like they take the form of dogs that have had their skin burnt off. And that means then it fits into the idea of like how on the metro networks within some cities that wild dogs actually have learned how to use the metro network to their own benefit. Just different ways to kind of make crazy kind of ghosts and really just show that Geist is about using the dead. That the ghosts are not always your antagonists; they are actually your means to solve the the mystery and the plot of the story.
Okay, I like it. I like it. But Chris, I have one last question for you, and I feel this is kind of important, and maybe you don't have a reason yet. But what is the motivation of this ghost mage? Why is he even doing this?
Oh,
in the first place?
he's basically so crazy that he's mostly tried before he died. Tried numerous ways to undo the death of his loved one, and the only way he can see doing so is to rework the world wholesale, not just by changing time, but by changing the geography of the world, so that that place could never have been for her to be in, for her to have died. Because if you go back in time and change something, there can be the knock-on butterfly effect that he dies somewhere else. But if his craziness has led him to just want to remove this entire location. But he's a mad ghost.
Yep.
And he's a mage, and his reasoning doesn't have to make sense, And he sees it a way for him to come back into being as well.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I like it.
Sweet. All right. I think that's it for the New World of Darkness. Let's move on to our closing remarks. Yep. All right. That was a long episode, and yeah, we'll definitely have to discuss more of this kind of stuff in the future. We are, of course, Darker Days Radio. You can check us out at darker-days.org. Send us an email at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. Check us out at Facebook at facebook.com/darkerdaysradio. Check us out on Google+. Just search for Darker Days Radio. You can join our community. It's pretty awesome, and we actually had a pretty strong influx of members recently, so that's definitely pretty rad. Anything else, Chris?
All the audio for GenCon from the panels is up, so someone did mention on the Onyx Path blog it'd be great if that high quality audio from Eddie could be matched up with the video that Chigg took. That'd be kind of crazy to try out.
It would be super nice.
It'd be really nice, yeah. I might try
If anybody wants to try that, you just let me know.
But otherwise, again, it'd be really great to do another issue of the Forgotten Lore. It's just that I personally don't have time to do the editing and layout, so I think that's something we should really try and foist upon the fans to give them the chance to, write something, edit it, and get the layout done. Because the layout's easy.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. I think that's it for this episode of Darker Days Radio. Good night.
See ya.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, Chigg, we didn't have any nerd fight for this episode to put at the end of the show, so we gotta do something real quick. All right, Chigg.
Yeah, Mike.
Get ready for this.
Okay.
Who would win in a fight? High King David from Changeling the Dreaming, or Jonas Albrecht from Werewolf? Go.
I'm going to go with High King David because he has Excalibur. And in one of the source books, it's mentioned that she weapons are made of moon silver. So suck it, werewolves.
Oh, shit. Yeah, he's boned.